The 2024 GMC Canyon AT4X with optional AEV package, or as Mark likes to call it, the Bison package. This is the professional grade version of the Chevrolet Colorado ZR2. This is its more opulent, bigger brother. AT4X, despite its explosive name, is really their fully decked out, all-terrain or off-road capable midsize GMC truck. Versus the Chevrolet sibling, this is more luxurious. You get unique front and rear fascias, which unfortunately hurt approach and departure angles, but it maintains the same 3-inch lift and the identical ground clearance. We're going to talk about some of the mechanical features in the shop a little bit later. From an interior space, you get a heads-up display, which you cannot get on the ZR2. You get some nicer interior leather, heated and cooled seats, and some more of the technology features like the Bose audio system and surround cameras as standard, but the underbody camera for off-roading is still an option. I will say from an appearance perspective, this looks like something you could take into the apocalypse or to invade a small island state. From an interior perspective, how does this compare to its rivals? There are pluses and there are minuses. I think the overall interior styling of this is better than the Ranger Raptor and the TRD Off-Road or TRD Pro Tacoma. The seats are a little bit less comfortable, I will say, but the interior technology, I feel like, is less in your face and better integrated. All the controls are physical, HVAC is physical. The screen is nowhere as large and in your face, though, and I think that is a welcome addition in this truck. Its con, though, compared to the Ranger and the Tacoma, is door storage. The door pockets in this vehicle are fairly pathetic. They're really, really small. But I think what you can live with and what you can't is really up to you. So it's worth taking a look at all of the other vehicles in this class. So with that, let's head in the shop and put this thing up on the lift. In the shop with the GMC Canyon AT4X, as we mentioned in the beginning of this video, this truck is mechanically identical to the ZR2 Colorado. However, the front and the rear, due to the different fascias, get about degree less of approach and departure angle. Honestly, that's sort of a negligible amount, but I'll leave that up to you. This has the same suspension tuning, the same lift kit, the whole 9 yards. This has over 10 inches of ground clearance. The lift over the regular truck is 3 inches with these Multimatic DSSV dampers. The actual suspension tuning is identical between the ZR2 and this AT4X. However, you can also option in both of these trucks the jounce control damper options for Multimatic. Essentially, it further improves the extreme off-road stability of the shock package on this vehicle. In the ZR2's case, it's baked into a package. The AT4X, you have to pay a la carte for it. It's like a $2,000 or $3,000 option. Again, depending on what you're actually doing with this truck, I will leave that up to you of whether or not it's worth it. The track is wider than a regular Canyon or Colorado. You get all-terrain tires. Due to the AEV package, you get some optional wheels that look extra tough. One of the things that distinguishes this truck, though, from its competitors in this class is the rear suspension design. In the case of the Ranger Raptor, which is more of a Baja-focused truck than a rock-crawling truck, gets a Watts link with coil springs, and of course, the TRD Pro from Toyota also gets coil springs. This is stuck with leafs. However, as you can clearly see, as this is in full droop, there is a lot of travel back there. Engine, you have one option and one transmission option for the AT4X. This is the high output 2.7 liter 4-cylinder engine, makes 27 PSI of boost. This is the same engine that they have configured in a variety of different ways for the Colorado and even the Silverado, because this is sort of replacing the V6 and a low output 5.3 liter V8. I will say it is very smooth, despite having cylinder deactivation that puts us in 2-cylinder mode. It's a really refined drivetrain. No, it's not a 6-cylinder. No, it's not an 8-cylinder, but it is very, very potent. It makes like 310 horsepower and 430 foot-pounds of torque in this configuration. So let's go take this for a quick drive. All right, I have my GM microchip activated. We're in a GMC AT4X Canyon. 430 foot-pounds of torque, 310 horsepower, big off-road capable truck. I'll be the first one to admit to this. This drive we're about to do is going to do this vehicle no justice when it comes to its off-road capability. However, I feel like this is going to reflect 95% of your time in this vehicle. Commuting to and from work, driving on a back road, just using this as almost an SUV replacement or a lifestyle vehicle. And I'm going to say in this class of truck, the two other trucks I'm thinking of are the Raptor Ranger and the TRD Pro Tacoma. I've spent time in both of its competitors, admittedly each time in a vacuum, meaning I drove them months apart. And the thing I'm going to say about this GMC, and this is basically going to be the same commentary, you can flip this into a ZR2 equivalent from Chevrolet. This vehicle is dominated by torque and dominated by its dampers. These Multimatic shocks do a very, very good job at absorbing minor road imperfections. While this never feels like a vehicle that isn't equipped with a live rear axle and leaf springs, it's not that harsh. It does a very good job. This is a truck you could drive at high speeds for a long distance and be very, very comfortable. The drivetrain as well. While I don't think it's necessarily a sporty feeling as the hybrid drivetrain in the Tacoma or the 6-cylinder in the Ranger Raptor, it has effortless acceleration. You never get away from the 4-cylinder sound, but it is a very, very refined drivetrain. The gearbox does a good job getting through its cogs quickly. There's not a lot of herky-jerkiness. It's a very smooth feeling engine. I like it a lot, I'm gonna be honest. Fuel economy, while this AT4X being up-armored and having all-terrain tires and beadlock wheels and skid plates, does it no favors in that department, despite driving this thing around in a spirited fashion, getting 14.5 miles per gallon. The cylinder deactivation in this, yes, you can theoretically run this as a 2-cylinder, 4-cylinder truck. It's largely seamless. You'll never really notice it's doing it. It's a really comfortable vehicle to drive around. I will say in the fun department, again, I'm not driving this off-road. I can't speak to it, dune running or rock crawling, day in and day out. This doesn't feel as whimsical as something like a Ranger Raptor. The Ranger Raptor is sort of my top dog in this class. I think its ride quality is a little bit better than this. I think going to a Watts link with coil springs in the back versus these leafs does help it in that department, and it feels a little bit more maneuverable. It has more of that sport sedan, sport SUV dynamics, where this feels more like an off-road truck, which is what it is. I think if you are looking at one of these vehicles, though, and you're okay swallowing its price tag, it's a really refined truck. I think in the lower trim levels of Canyons and Colorados and Tacomas and Rangers, I lean towards the Chevy equivalent. I think this 4-cylinder is more refined than the non-hybridized 4-cylinder in the Tacoma. I vastly prefer this to the 2.3 found in the Ranger. The trans tuning, well, none of these gearboxes other than in the Ranger Raptor are all that sporty. This is really, really smooth. You don't really notice anything. And I think in a truck like this, which you're going to use primarily as a lifestyle vehicle / daily driver, family hauler, I like it. I like that it's a little bit serious. I like that it is very, very refined, and I think you'll enjoy this vehicle. Whether or not you'd pick this over a Ranger Raptor, I think it's a hard sell. But with that, let's head into the final thoughts.
Final thoughts on the GMC Canyon, the AT4X with the AEV package. All of this adds about $10,000 to the price tag. With the recovery package, you're pushing $70,000. Now, clearly, you can get that for more or less depending on who you are. This is a truck for someone that is not putting ketchup on their hot dogs or their 32-ounce porterhouse steak. This is a truck that is a lifestyle vehicle without feeling completely douchey. The Multimatic dampers and some of the off-road things that they've added here are legitimately capable. They haven't gone to coil springs, which is a blessing or a curse depending on who you are. But what I will say, and I've said this before, when you put really great suspension on a car, namely the damper technology here, it rides tremendous on the road. It hides the leaf spring rear end, and it almost brings it closer to a coil spring suspension. And that's one of the best parts about the Canyon in Colorado is it's very refined riding. And they haven't kind of like thrown the gimmicks at you. This feels more cohesive in terms of interior package. You could argue the back seats aren't the most usable, and of course the bed is eaten up by the spare tire. You know, these are arguments you're going to have about trucks like this, but I think what they intended to do, they achieved, and it feels like they spent a lot of time in making this work, unlike some of the other vehicles that seem more thrown together. I liked this car a lot. I know Jack did. Clearly, you have to decide on whether you want to spend $60,000+ on a lifestyle off-road truck, but it does very well compared to its competition. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next video.